Okay, so we're going to get to the lesson here shortly, and that's on Psalm 50 in the Septuagint, 51 in your translations. Beautiful passage. Deep, very deep. You're going to get tons out of this. But first, I just want to get a little business out of the way. I'll be very brief about it. I still really need donations. What I need it for is the generators. It's cold here. We are having the power cut off twice every day, total of about 8 hours every day. So it gets pretty cold, it gets pretty dark, and you got families out there with little kids. And so I'd like to get some generators to those people, okay? At least 3 families, if we can. So please, please step up. Step up. Look in your heart. Ask God how much you should give, and then send it. But also send me an email saying this is for the generators. If I don't know, then I may have another need that I may need to use it for, like maybe there's a family that has some other need, that's going on. So I do need to know that is earmarked for the generators, because I've got multiple things going on here at once that are all very important. So write to me an email, ron.craig@therootedword.com. You'll find it in the About tab on the channel homepage, YouTube channel homepage. So you go to the homepage of this channel that you're watching this video on, and you click the About tab, and then you'll have contact, and it's the email address. You can go ahead and email me there and tell me that. And if you can't figure that out, just go ahead and write me a comment under this video. Say, don't tell me how much you donated there, okay? That shouldn't be public, okay? Just say, I sent in a donation and my name is, and I want it to go to the generator. Or I want 50% of it to go to the generators, right? However you want to word that. But you can do that either way, with a comment under the video or in email. I prefer email because that's easier to track than comments. All right, let's get on with it. All right, so I'm going to read from Psalm, 51. It's 50 in the Septuagint. Just a few verses here. It's a fresh translation from the Septuagint, which is much more difficult for me to work with because the tools that I have available right now are not my tools that I've made programmatically. So it's harder for me to work with it because it's not designed to be worked with in this modern way for translation, like electronic way. And so I'm in the process of working with the data of the Septuagint to put it into a format where I can use it as easily as I can the New Testament documents. What I want to show you at the beginning here is unrelated. I just learned today, and I just wanted to quickly show you this. This zipper here on my backpack was broken. So I had unzipped it, and then I went to zip it up, but it didn't zip. And so the 2 tracks of teeth were not joining together. No matter how much I worked with it, I can only get it up to halfway zipped. But I couldn't get it all the way back here and zip it the whole way. So I didn't know what to do. So I figured out how to fix it, and it's a very easy, quick fix. You can use either scissors or pliers. Needle nose pliers work best. The scissors worked very, very well. Now, I don't know what condition the scissors are in afterwards, but so you take, right now it's zipped up. If you pull it back a little bit and you see where it's unzipped on this side, right? And this is the side that zips first. You pull it this way and it zips it, right? So on this back side, where it starts to pull the teeth together, that's what you want to work with. And so you take this part here, the metal part, it's got a little nose in the middle. So you want to clamp down with this on the right side. So get it under, so you got, these teeth can't be together for it to happen, right? So it's got to be broken. So you get that underneath it and this on top, and you get it in as far as you can because the strength of the scissors is right here, not up here. Up here you don't get much force. But if you can get it all the way back here and just squeeze hard, not really hard, but just hard enough like you're squeezing it together because it's 2 shelves, metal shelves, you're squeezing it together. You do that on one side, then you do it on the left side. And you back it up and try it. And within 1 or 2 tries, you'll have it fixed. It's very easy. It's so easy. It's crazy easy. So I put this in my backpack and carried it with me when I went to the store, just in case it wasn't going to stay, right? And I would have to do it again because maybe I didn't do it well enough. But it was well enough. It's staying. Right? There's your little survival lesson, okay? Now, into the psalm. As I said, in your Bibles, your translations of the Bible, it's going to be a bit different. And it's Psalm 51. And I don't know the verse numbers, but Psalm 50, verses 4 through 8 in the Septuagint. And if you want a copy of the Septuagint to read, it's been translated back in the 19th century. And this is the one that I use to read from. If I'm reading to you in English from the Old Testament, I'm reading from this one. And that's Brenton's Septuagint. You can download it from the website down in the links of almost any video on our channel. You'll find it says Old Testament. Click on that link, it takes you to the website, to the Old Testament page. It explains the difference between the Jewish Masoretic text that was created 900 years after Christ and the Septuagint that was created 250 years before Christ in Greek. So you have the Hebrew and the Greek. The Hebrew wasn't created until 900 years after Christ. So don't rely on the Old Testament in your translations of the Bible. Those were made by the Jews, the school of Jews, like the specific seminary, right? That kind of thing. The school of Jews who crucified Jesus. And then they set out to alter the Old Testament in written form and conform it to what they'd been telling each other it should say. And so they changed it every word they could. Here we go, though. Psalm 50, verses 4 through 8. To you only I sin, and I do the hurtful evil in your gaze. I do these in that manner whensoever you are revealed as equitable, in the words laid forth from you. And you may conquer in that thing, to be dividing, to distinguish in decision from you. For behold, in lawless deeds I was put together, and in deeds against allotment my mother, while pregnant, craved strange food for me. For behold, you love the unhidden truth. You make clear to me from your wisdom the unclear things and the concealed things. He will sprinkle me in hyssop, and I will be purged. He will plunge me as laundry, and I will be whitened more than snow. You will cause me to hear the sound of jumping for joy, and he will himself jump for joy for gladness, bones being depressed. Now the last part is a little enigmatic because you've got you and then he. It's a little strange because both of them seem like they should be referring to the Lord. So let's go through this. So it's verses 4 through 8, so it's 5 verses. Here we go. To you only I sin, and I do the hurtful evil in your gaze. Now, in your translations, it's going to say something like this. I'll read it from the New King James Version. So what you're used to hearing is, against you, you only, have I sinned and done this evil in your sight. Okay? That's not what it says. It doesn't say that. It's not this evil. It's not a particular evil. It's all hurtful evil. It's not in your sight like your opinion. And that's how it reads. It reads like that. Against you, you only have I sinned and done this evil in your sight, like in your opinion. No. The word is in gaze. In gaze. Not sight like opinion. It's like being in front of someone where they're watching you. The hurtful evil that you do All of it is done in the gazing presence of the Lord. That's what it's saying. It's a singular word in Greek. In gaze, in the gaze of the Lord. To you only I sin. What do they have? Against. Oh yeah, against you. That's a completely different, well, it's a word that's not even there. It's a word that's not even there. To you is you in the dative form. And I've talked about this before. You'll get used to these terms as you watch my videos. The nominative is the one doing the action, the subject, right? So the nominative case, that's like the endings change on the words in Greek according to what role they play in the sentence. So you got the subject who's doing the action, you got the object that the action is being done on, and then you got the indirect object that's receiving the action or is the beneficiary of the action, okay? And those are the main cases. In addition, you've got genitive, which can be translated from or of, like possessive, like the mother of me is how they say it in Greek, but it means my mother. So, and when you have genitive, it can be of or from, and you have to distinguish those two. And then of can be either of, like originating from, so it's kind of like from, right? Or it can be possessive. So it's a little tricky. This is you in the dative. Dative is the indirect object. It's to you, the recipient of the action. There is no other word. Against would have been kata. Kata is a preposition. It means against. And I know that some translators want to translate the dative into against, but it has nothing to do with against. It's in or into or to. And so, not against you, to you. To you, like towards you, in your direction. So it's to you only I sin. My sin is not related to anyone else, but to you, Lord. You are the most important one in regards to sin. Doesn't mean I haven't offended someone else and need to apologize. Okay? So against you, you only. So, and they repeat the you. There's no repetition of the you. They do that for drama, although it's not there in the Greek. To you only I sin. It's just straightforward. To you only I sin, and I do the hurtful evil in your gaze. And they didn't distinguish between the evil that they're talking about and the corrupted, twisted character type of evil, like that can't be fixed. So there are different kinds of evil with different words for that in Greek. And this Greek means harmful evil or hurtful evil. So it's evil that is designed to hurt someone, to harm someone. And they didn't qualify that. And that's another big contention I have with these translators. They don't qualify these very, very clearly distinguished words in the Greek. And they just blur it all together in the English. So another reason why the Lord called me in particular to translate, because I'm not going to play favorites and try to blur things together like the King James or the New King James or even worse, the NIV or ESV or any of the others. Let's keep going. I do these in that manner whensoever you are revealed as equitable. That is what it says. Whenever. I do this whenever. Whensoever you are revealed as equitable in the words laid forth from you. Whenever God is revealed as equitable in the words that he said, David says he sins. David says that he does hurtful evil in the gaze of the Lord. He says, whensoever. It's not just one time, because that word is very specific. So there's no way that it can be one time. It says, against you, you only have I sinned. Like one time. And done this evil. That's one time. It is not one time at all in the text. It's talking about in general. It's talking about every time. Let's keep going. It says, and done this evil in your sight, that you may be found just. What? So God is not found just when you don't sin? That's sick and wicked. Those translators really should have been thrown out of the church for that. Just for that translation right there. It's sick and wicked to say that God is not just unless I sin and do hurtful evil in his gaze. God can only be just if I'm evil. No, absolutely not. That is sick and twisted, and it's not what it says in the text. It is not what it says. It says that David's reaction to God being proven equitable in his words is to sin. Not that God is proven equitable because David sins. It's the other way around. David sins because God is shown as equitable. And you say, well, why does he do that? Well, he explains. In the very next verse, he explains about his mom. So, but let's finish this verse. It says, and you may conquer in that thing. In that thing. And you may conquer in that thing where God is shown equitable in his words and I sin to him and I do harmful evil in his gaze. God's shown as equitable in his words. I react with sin and harmful evil. He's equitable in his words. I react with sin and harmful evil. And he says, and you may conquer in that thing, in that relationship, that thing that's going on. That you may conquer in that. Stop it. To be dividing, to distinguish in decisions from you. Meaning that when God makes a decision by dividing and distinguishing and makes a decision, through that he conquers in that situation. When it's between him being proven equitable through his words and David sinning and causing harmful evil. And that God himself conquers that situation by distinguishing and dividing and making a decision on it. Okay, let's keep going. Verse 5. For behold, look, in lawless deeds I was put together. In lawless deeds I was put together. Meaning, not only his environment, he learned lawless deeds, but he also came up with lawless deeds as he was growing and developing. That's the image he's giving. I was put together by being built as I was growing. In lawless deeds I was put together. And in deeds against allotment, that's sins, in deeds against allotment, my mother, while pregnant, craved strange food for me. That is exactly what it says. That's literally exactly what it says. What do they have here? Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity. Well, iniquity is not lawless deeds. Iniquity is inequity. not equitable, not balanced and fair. Well, that's not lawless. And in sin, no, sins is plural. It is plural. Deeds against allotment. In sins, my mother conceived me. Well, that's kind of watered down, don't you think? It's quite watered down. Whereas the verb actually says that it implies she's pregnant. The verb does. It implies she's pregnant. But it specifically is about her craving strange food, unusual food. It's that thing when you're pregnant and you crave pickles and ice cream, right? But in this case, I think what David was alluding to was she was craving food that was unlawful for the Jews to eat, like maybe shrimp. You say, shrimp's unlawful for them to eat? Yeah, shelled seafood. Maybe the Jews have a hereditary thyroid problem. I don't know, because the seafood, shelled seafood, is high in iodine. Because I don't have my thyroid, I can't eat it because I'm missing my thyroid because I had cancer. So in case there are some renegade thyroid cells in my body anywhere, I don't eat iodine because it could activate them. So I don't do that. So I can't have crab or lobster or shrimp or scallops, especially scallops. Calamari, squid, really high in iodine. Scallops are really high. Anyway, I can't have any of that. I'll get sick, actually. I had crab shortly after I had the operation. This is years ago. And I threw up all night. It was just, little bowl of like crab, I don't know what you call it, salad or something. And it was real crab. It wasn't the imitation. And I threw up all night. So he could be referring to this unlawful food that she was craving. And that's what it sounds like, because he was put together in lawless deeds and in deeds against allotment. My mother, while pregnant, craved strange food for me, meaning he was in her stomach. In her womb, right? And so he was feeding off of whatever she was eating. And so she was causing him to eat unlawful food. So he's saying, perhaps these are the reasons why I have this impulse to do this against you, God. Whenever you are proven equitable in the words that you've laid forth, I react with sinning against you, sinning to you, because against it's not there. Sinning to you and doing hurtful evil in your gaze. Maybe the reason I do that, maybe the reason I react like that is because of how these two aspects of me being raised as an infant in the womb, being fed unlawful food, and then also growing up as I'm growing, being put together in lawless deeds. Verse 6. Again he says, for behold. So that's important. So you have to look at 5 and 6 as two steps, or two things that are closely related. For behold, look. He's still talking to God. You love the unhidden truth. The word truth, aletheia in Greek, it comes from a root word that means to lie hidden, but it has the ah on the front, which means without or not. And so truth, the word truth, if a Greek looks at it, he recognizes it's composed of not or without, lying hidden. So truth is something that is not lying hidden. It's not lying there hidden under a rock, concealed somewhere. And so that's what the word truth means. And so in this case, it's very important that you understand that. So that's why I drew the root out to the translation of the word truth. So you understand, because it's in contrast to what he's going to say next. For behold, you love the unhidden truth. You make clear to me from your wisdom. Okay, gets better. You make clear to me from your wisdom the unclear things and the concealed things. This is the root of the word apocalypse. Apocalypse is like to uncover. Okay? But this is the cover part, the conceal. And so that contrasts with the word truth, because the word truth, in it's composed of, is to not be lying hidden somewhere. And he's saying here that God makes clear to him from his wisdom the unclear things and the concealed things. So God's wisdom is related to truth in its function, because truth itself does not lie hidden. That's the word. And wisdom itself from God gives David the ability to see clearly the unclear things and the concealed things. And God does that for leaders as well. Maybe not all leaders, but many leaders he does. Leaders who are truly preaching the gospel and not sinning. But he does that for us, where he will reveal the concealed things. And it's happened over and over and over again on this channel with the apostate Christians who come here. And they try to conceal their motives. And God reveals to me what it is, or reveals to me how to respond to them according to what they need based on the state of their heart. And when it's not the way that they want me to respond to them, they get angry. They get aggressive and even violent, sometimes threatening me. Some have threatened to kill me. No joke. No joke. Some have threatened to kill me. And then you have the others that run off and make some sort of hate video about me. Oh, he hurt me. He said nasty things to me, and all I was doing was asking a question, when they weren't really just asking a question. If you read the text, you'd even see it yourself. But nevertheless, God would reveal things about it, and I would respond. And their reaction would prove God is right. The state of their heart would be revealed by that interaction. Okay, let's keep going. So you make clear to me from your wisdom the unclear things and the concealed things. They have here, behold, you desire truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you will make me to know wisdom. Well, that's really watered down and it's inaccurate, because it sounds like the inward parts of the person, right? But that's not what it's talking about at all. It's not what it's talking about. So, all right, let's keep going. And it makes no sense. It makes no sense in the context. If you take it literally, what it literally says word for word, it makes sense in the context. I don't know why they would not just translate what they see right in front of them, unless they couldn't see it. And if that were so, it would have been because of their sin. Let's keep going. Verse 7, he will sprinkle me in hyssop, and I will be purged. Okay, so the power of God's ceremony, because it's a ceremonious thing, taking hyssop and sprinkling with like water. And the priest does that at the Catholic Church and the Orthodox churches. They take it from the Bible. He will sprinkle me in hyssop, and I will be purged. It's from where we get our word catharsis, from the same Greek word, purged. He will plunge me as laundry. That's what it means, to plunge like laundry in the water. And I will be whitened more than snow. And this says, purge me with hyssop. He's commanding God to do it. That's not what it says. And I shall be clean. Clean's kind of watered down. Ha ha ha, watered down. Wash me, another command to God, where it's not a command. It says he will plunge me as laundry. This says, wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Well, you don't have the laundry part in there. Washing what? Like in the shower. Okay, but where's the part about laundry, right? And taking a shower, you don't come out being whiter, but with laundry you do. Okay? So when you put the part about laundry in there, even back in their times, you put the part about laundry in there and it emphasizes the white part. Whereas what, your skin is whiter? Well, not if you're brown. So it doesn't make any sense. Unless you're a white person writing this, translating this. Okay? Let's go to verse 8. You will cause me to hear the sound of jumping for joy, and he will himself jump for joy for gladness, bones being depressed. Now I put he. Now it's in the third person singular. It could be he, she, or it. And it's unclear. And there's no predecessor to that. So what do? He is the general form for it. But it could just as well be translated it. But there's no reason to translate it she at all. But he and it are both generic genders. So he can refer to he and she at the same time if it's a group, mixed group. Whereas it refers to something that you don't know the gender of. Even if it has gender, you don't know the gender of it, you use it. I'm talking about in Greek. Here it says, make me hear joy and gladness. Another command to God that's not there in the text. It's future tense. You will cause me. It's not make me. I know some translators like to take the future tense and turn it into a command. It's not a command. Future tense is future tense. You will. Not do this. Make me hear joy and gladness that the bones you have broken may rejoice. Where's broken in this? It's not there. That's not there at all. Probably they took the word depressed, which literally means a depression in the ground. Not broken. It has nothing to do with broken. You think, well, maybe if he tripped in the hole in the ground, he'd break his bones, Yeah, but it says, you have broken. The bones that you have broken may rejoice. What? God broke his bones? No, that's not how it reads in the text. It doesn't read that way. So it says bones being depressed. It's this idiom that even we talk about, right? What would be our idiom? Let's see. Sorry. It's like a sorrow that pierces to the bone, right? And so there's this depression. It could be humility, because in light of what he has just said, it's probably a sorrowful humility, because he has come to grips with his situation, about how he reacts to God's equity being proven out of his words that he's laid forth. His equity is then proven by his actions. And then how David reacts to that with sin and with hurtful evil. And then trying to make sense of it from his upbringing. And yet it's not enough. Because then he's faced with the mercy of God, where God purges him by a simple ceremony of sprinkling him with water from hyssop. And he has to come to grips with the fact that God plunges him as laundry and makes him whiter than snow. Or he has to come to grips with the fact that because God loves unhidden truth, God actually makes clear to David, through his wisdom, the unclear things and the concealed things, even though David has been reacting against God being proven equitable out of his words with sin and hurtful evil. And so when we get to the end, it says, you will cause me to hear the sound of jumping for joy, and he will himself jump for joy, for gladness, bones being depressed. Okay, and so it could be translated, and I might change it to, it will itself jump for joy, for gladness, bones being depressed, referring to his body. Nevertheless, David was depressed to the bones because of this, because of not only how he was reacting against God's equity, and so there's that contrast, but then there's a contrast with that struggle that God conquers each time with a dividing and distinguishing for decision. But then that's contrast, that whole struggle there is contrasted with God's mercy and God's gifts to David. These verses are astounding. They are astounding. When they're translated correctly and you look into the depth of it, they are astounding. God is beautiful. I want you to go back and listen to this video again. You can skip the part about the zipper. You can jump right to the beginning of the reading. But go back and listen to it again 2 or 3 times. Please. Serious. If you go back and you carefully listen to it, second time, take notes. Take notes. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll put the text in the description. You can copy that into a notepad or into Word or whatever you want, and then take some notes below it. And as you take notes that second time, you're listening more carefully, and you're starting to understand, because you have to actually construct the notes. You have to figure out what's important and what jumps out to you and then you have to put it in your own words. Very important stage. Then the third time, just before you listen to it the third time, I want you to listen to it 3 times. This is time number 1. Second time, you're going to copy and paste the text into Notepad, if you're on Windows or whatever, whatever writing utility you've got, right? And then take notes down below that. So you're going to have to stop every once in a while and go, that's important. That jumped out at me, and you write down why it jumped out at you and what it was. Third time, just before you listen to the third time, I want you to review your notes, read the passage, review your notes, and then listen that third time. Just relax and listen. And I guarantee a whole new world will open up to you. And that's how you do Bible study. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.